Welcome back to InTheScare, where every week I look at one scary movie and break down 3 scenes that terrify, frighten, or freak us out, just to see why they're so fucking scary. This week, 7. Released in 1995, directed by David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow, and R. Lee Ermey. The 7 deadly sins: gluttony, greed, envy, pride, sloth, lust, wrath. Welcome to the twisted world of 7. The scares in this movie are disturbing. You can feel them, smell them. This is before the carnage of Saw or the shock of House of a Thousand Corpses. Before crime thrillers really went for it, 7 went for it. Gritty, dark, and atmospheric. 7 gives you a psychological crime thriller with an edge. It doesn't jump at you, it doesn't tell you ghost stories. It does what can arguably be said is the most terrifying thing of all. It shows you real life and makes you feel it. Let's find out what's in the box together on this week's episode of InTheScare. If you don't think you know David Fincher's work, you probably actually do. Alien 3, The Game, Fight Club, Panic Room, Zodiac, The Social Network, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And that's just his films. In television, there's House of Cards, Mindhunter, Love, Death, and Robots. So, I'm betting that you know David Fincher. And if you're a fan of horror and psychological thrillers, you know 7. 7 is widely considered to be the film that gave him his big break. So I'm going to do things a little bit different this time. I'm not going to give you a glorified plot run through because I want to spend more time talking about the individual scenes and why they're so interesting and what makes 7 so unique. The gist is Brad Pitt plays a rookie detective, Mills, who teams up with a retiring senior detective, Somerset, to investigate a gruesome crime. One crime leads to another, and they're off on the hunt, trying to catch a serial killer who is using the 7 deadly sins as a murderous template. The plot leads them through sick and twisted crime scenes of gore and torture, only to end up with a final scene that flips the entire narrative on its head, revealing a box, the murderer, and one final sin: wrath. Let the countdown begin. Gluttony. There's a stillness in the air as Mills and Somerset enter their first murder scene. Through the side entrance of a broken down house, only a flashlight lighting their way, they make small talk as they creep through the hallway. Broken wood planks and crumbling drywall, old shelving with assorted cans and bins that you'd see in someone's shed. They walk slowly past stacks of newspapers, exposed wiring and outlets. The lights don't work. And then they make it to the room, now dimly lit by a few lamps, emitting a dry amber light. 2 televisions flicker. Somerset kneels to the floor, shining his flashlight, and roaches scatter. A dining room is revealed. And as the detectives walk up to the table, a large oval-shaped man in a tank top, presumed dead, extremely obese, skin discolored, sweat stains down his shirt, and his face down in his dinner dish. A nearby cabinet stocked with stacks and stacks of spaghetti sauce. The man's feet and hands tied together, and upon closer inspection, you see the purple veins bulging out of his skin. The body is still in the darkness as Somerset inspects his surroundings. Rotted food and dirty dishes line the table, more roaches. A bucket of vomit under the table. Is this a murder? Is this a suicide? Is this an accidental death? The medical examiner comes in, lifts up his head to reveal his discolored, lifeless eyes, declaring he's dead. What just happened to me? How did this film take me into this scene so easily? How can you taste the dead air? How can you smell the rotting food on the table? Let's walk through this. For one, the lighting. We can't see everything. We get glimpses of what the film wants us to see, and our minds fill in the gaps. Set design, another huge aspect here. This place just feels like the den of someone who doesn't take care of themselves, who doesn't care about the kind of home they live in. It's broken down and extremely unkept. And it doesn't feel staged. In fact, I would argue that the attention to detail is hyper real. A vision of what you think a murder scene like this would look like. And just as well, the design of the corpse. He looks inhuman, too big in that chair, but he's there, seated at the table. Did this man eat himself to death? And is that what we're seeing in front of our very eyes? Greed. We see this lawyer's office after the victim has already been cleared out. The word greed is spelled in blood on the floor. The office is thrown apart in disarray, and we don't know too much about what happened here. The greed murder is a stepping stone in the plot, an office filled with hidden clues that we come back to multiple times in the movie. But then later, photos reveal what really happened here. A man hunched over, with his flesh cut out of the side of his body. A lawyer was tied up and had to cut out a pound of his own flesh and place it on a scale. He ended up cutting off his love handle along the side of his stomach and bleeding to death. Sloth. Storm clouds cover the sky as a SWAT team enters an old apartment building. Our next victim has been found. The team makes its way up a staircase through twists and turns down old hallways. The walls dirty and covered in holes. The overhead lights barely alive. The dark figures of the SWAT team make it to the final hallway. The paint peeling off the mud-colored walls. We see apartment 306. They breach the room. Broken doors, paint and walls peeled away. Furniture and boxes thrown about, empty bottles on the floor, and then we see something odd. Cardboard Christmas tree cutouts, air fresheners, hundreds of them, hanging from the ceiling. And they reach the room, their flashlights pointing through an open door to a room where a man is sleeping under a sheet. The bed, old and rusted, mattress torn, and he doesn't move. They remove the sheet to reveal the remains of a sickly, malnourished person. Skin almost peeled away, bones pushing through, and somehow the stench comes through the screen. The detectives rush to the front line, their next victim. The Christmas tree air fresheners are littered across the body, the blinds on the windows thrown about. Photos found near the bed reveal this man was tortured for the past year, slowly led to death's door. Then the head of the SWAT team leans over the dead man's face, yellow teeth protruding from his mouth, and he whispers,
"You got what you deserved."
He is not dead. What I want to talk about again here is the hidden character of the film, the scene. What does the apartment of someone like this look like? Then on top of that, what would it look like if for the past year he was strapped to the bed, tortured, and the place was let go, abandoned? I would argue this is what you would picture. But it's not enough to just say, well, yeah, the set designer did their job. They created this shitty old apartment that is broken, busted, and feels creepy. It's how it's revealed to us, starting with the weather, the type of day it is, the regimented and careful approach as the team makes their way to the room. The details flicker in and out of focus as the lights of the SWAT team sway across the room. Lighting, set, pacing, and another element, music. When they finally reach the room, this bold music cue along with the shot composition tells us quite clearly, get ready, here it is.
Morning, sweetheart.
I think what sells this scene the most is the pacing. A rainy day, a SWAT team raiding the apartment of a criminal, the process of traversing this old building, the initial bust into the apartment, the reveal of the room, the reveal of the body, a stillness, knowing even though this is fucked up, it's all clear. Now we can figure this out. And then boom! Back to red alert, level 10. This guy's still alive. Lust. There are two scenes for Lust. 1. Wild Bill's leather. A BDSM leather and accessory shop one might find in a dark alley or on the back road of a huge bustling city. It rains again, and the detectives enter Wild Bill's to interrogate him about a suspect. The shop is full of leather suits and masks, assorted whips and chains, and these neat bronze mannequins. Again, we see this mixture of overhead fluorescent lights with these yellow room lamps, and the shop screams industrial underground. The shop owner has photos of custom pieces that he's made for his clients, including the one that we're about to see. 2. Hothouse. Now they head underground, into the hothouse. Neon signs flash against custom graffiti painted walls as the detectives walk down multiple flights of stairs. The music pumping louder, goth industrial club beats. The soaked jackets of cops escorting them. Brad Pitt's wet, disheveled hair. Red spotlights, blinking. They're doing it again. The hidden character is back. The scene. They continue down the hallway, music blaring. An officer, alarmed, standing at a door, leads them into a side room. The word lust carved on the door. A half-naked man is freaking out, and a woman is revealed to be dead underneath a sheet on a bed. This time they don't show us, but maybe that's worse. Maybe they can't show us. Maybe what happened shouldn't be seen. The man screams. And then we cut to them interrogating this man and find out what he was forced to do. I have trouble really describing this, so I'm just gonna pull it straight from Wikipedia. A man forced by Doe at gunpoint to kill a prostitute by raping her with a custom-made bladed strap-on, representing lust. Yeah, and I bet we're all happy they didn't show us that. Pride. A woman laying in bed, dead. Her face bloodied and bandaged, an item glued to each of her hands, a phone and a bottle of pills. Her face was disfigured by the killer, and her choice: call for help, save your life, and be disfigured forever. Or save your pride and kill yourself, so you don't have to live like this. He cut off her nose to spite her face. Pride is a carryover to the final act. It throws our main characters over the edge. But this scene is one of the most direct comparisons to movies like Saw. You can see a direct link to how modern horror films took the concepts of Seven and its gruesome murders and amplified them. It makes sense. What more can you give an audience? Does an audience want to see this happening from beginning to end? The struggle with a choice that will either kill you or harm you severely? I mean, the answer is yes. They made 7 Saw films. Envy. I'm not going to spoil the ending of this movie for you. If you haven't seen 7, go watch it. The killer and the detectives finally make contact, and he's in their custody. The killer reveals that he has wanted Detective Mill's life, his beautiful wife, his job, everything he had. His sin was envy. And the final sin, wrath. The killer leads them to where the final body is. A box mysteriously appears. What's in the box? 7 is dark. It's probably one of the heaviest psychological crime thrillers out there, and arguably Fincher's darkest film. I think it's one of the best examples of how atmosphere and pacing can shape a film. How a filmmaker can draw on all of their tools and put them into just the right places to make you feel something. How moving pictures and sounds can transcend into more visceral emotions and senses. How the way a set is dressed and lights are placed can scare you. How color, or lack thereof, can shape your unconscious. 7 is terrifying because it feels real. The actors are masterful and the writing is fantastic, but I argue that what really makes 7 truly frightening is how the hidden character of the scene is created. All those names that run at the end of the movie, after the big actors and the executives, those people, directed by Fincher, they're the ones that scared us. I made this video a little different to mimic the feel and tone of the film. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you enjoy the channel, give it a subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time on InTheScare.